Hey guys, thank you for joining me. I'm just going to do this live video of gouache painting. This is what I'm doing here. Trying to keep something simple. Let's see. We're just going to do a very simple lighthouse. And I'm going to demonstrate what I've learned with gouache. So I'm just doing the drawing real quick. So bear with me. Let's see. Okay, I guess that would work. All right, so I just did the light pencil drawing. So you asked about a gouache painting. Let me put this here just like that. I guess I can see it this way. There you go. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, because I'm learning with gouache myself, so basically real quick recap, gouache is basically an opaque watercolor, all right? All the colors, basically have some kind of white or emulsifier in there that just makes it opaque. I'm not a scientist. And then you have, if you see acrylic gouache, is basically acrylic that's opaque, all right? So don't confuse the two. One's basically a watercolor that's opaque, and the other one's an acrylic that's opaque. And the other difference is that when you use gouache, the painting, meaning that if you add water to it again, you could reactivate it. Versus if you're using acrylic gouache, the colors that you put on there, the painting will be permanent. You will not be able to lift those colors once the colors are on there. So that's the difference, basic difference between the two. And they're both, of course, opaque and water soluble. So here's, because I was learning how to use gouache, I'm using these Artist Loft. You can find these on Michaels. This is the Michaels brand. You can find them anywhere, right? Any Michaels at least. So I think I paid like what? With a 20% discount, I got like for like $6. But I was kind of surprised that how well they covered though. So eventually upgrade to higher quality like the Winsor & Newton or the Turners. So I got this portable palette here that you can use. Put your finger on there and just paint. But luckily enough, I was able to put it up here like this so you can see as I paint. So right now, as you can see, I have some dry gouache here. Now, I can reactivate this. Actually, I need to put my spray on there. I could reactivate this with water and just use this as a fine wash or watercolor. Let it dry a little bit as we speak. And then I could go in with thicker paint. So it all depends. Every artist, from what I see that used it differently. Some start out like really thick, and some start out, thin washes, just as if they were doing oil paints and acrylics, and then go on thicker on this. I do a little bit of both, depending on what I'm really trying to achieve. So let me just put some new right out of the tube, because I want it fresh. So what's nice about gouache, you could use it just like watercolor. Or you could just use fresh paint. So today I'm going to use fresh because I want to use the paint a little bit thick. So I'm just going to pour it on here. Okay. I didn't even bring my spray bottle. This is a just cad yellow well, from what they say, just lemon yellow. This is yellow ochre. The colors are a little bit different from my usual palette. This is red crimson. I guess that's their version of alizarin crimson there. And then I have two different blues here. They gave me cerulean blue and Prussian blue. Okay, well, we'll work with that. Let's just do the... And actually, those blue are pretty, like... It's almost like using phthalo blue. It's very intense, both of those blues. Let's put some new paint because I'm going to be painting clouds here. And we have final color, a color that I do not use usually in my palette, black. But because these blues are going to be so intense, I need to mix like almost like an ultramarine, or, you know, I want to dull down some of this blue. This is one I have to use as the black. Let me just put it right here so you guys can see it. I could always take it out later. That's my white. Oh, well, I'll just put it here. Don't use too much of that. Oh, shoot, I forgot to get my white. Oh, here it is. Here's white. If you get gouache, you'll need a lot of white. There you go. Let's go work with that. Okie dokie, ready? Let's start. So for the brushes, I have some cheapo brushes. I paid like, what, $5 for this? Because I'm going to use this on the go. So I got a big, I use this one a lot. This big fat round. And these are Artist Loft as well, you know. But they work. They do real good. They do a pretty good job of holding a lot of water and doing what I needed to do. So let me wet my brushes here. So now the other thing is, you don't want to keep the paint too wet, otherwise you're going to have a watercolor effect, and you don't want to have it too thick, because what would happen is as you're laying the colors, it will just drag on your canvas here. So let's start with the lighthouse. Let me just start adding this in. So from what I have, okay, we're going to start off with these colors right here. Okay, and then we'll start working with the rest of the stuff here. Okay, so let's start with, I see blue. I'm going to use my Prussian blue, maybe a little bit of that red crimson, little bit of black. Let's use a lot of white. See how intense these colors are? There you go. And I could always come back over here and grab some more. Let's see. Okay, this will work. Now notice how the colors drag. What I'm using is watercolor paper. This is 140 pound or 300 GSM, whichever way you guys go with that. And it's really good. I could use it without having the paper to buckle very much, and it will hold a lot of water. And this is the Grumbacher watercolor paper. So watch this. Now you saw the difference when I use it dry and when you use the colors wet. Easier to apply. All right, I didn't put too much water. And if this is too, you know, dark, I could always go back on it and fix this, because these colors, like I said, are pretty opaque. So I'm not going for the most beautiful drawing here. I'm just going to make a very like impressionistic painting. Put a little bit of water to that so it'll flow easier. So I'm just making like a little transition of color. Let me see. Now, I never thought I'd be using gouache, but let me tell you what, I've been having a lot of fun using it so far. It's so, I guess, what would you say, just liberating. It's like the best of both worlds between the acrylics And oil, I don't know, there was something about it that was just so much fun to use. A little bit more blue here on this. And the reason why I bought a cheap set is because, I want to learn it and not waste paint if I don't like it, And what's nice with it, also being that it's cheap, is there's a certain amount of freedom that you could have and be liberated and not worried about if you mess up or not, because you didn't pay too much for these. All right, they were cheap. So that's why when people say you have to buy, the best that you can afford, well, I don't know. I don't always agree with that, especially when you're first starting out. I don't agree with that statement because, what good are the tools if you don't know how to use them? First, you want to build up your confidence on how to use them, and then you could always upgrade to, more expensive paints. Let's see. Now, I can paint with this wet on wet, but I'm going to let some of it dry so I can go back over it and continue to work. And see how I went up over here? I could erase that, look. Okay, you see that? Just put water and erase it. Hi, everybody. Does it dry quickly like acrylics? Yeah, it dries pretty quickly. But, I find it to be an advantage, truthfully. Some people don't like it, but I find it to be an advantage because I don't like to wait, very long for a color to dry. So right now I just used that mixture that I had here, the blue, red, and I add a little bit of yellow ochre to make this, I'm trying to make like a grayed down color here. So I use pretty much my primary colors, except I use yellow ochre, which, will gray down any kind of color. And we're going to start with the base here. And sometimes what I found was awesome about using this was the fact that you could let some of the texture on the paper show through, which gives it a really, really cool effect. That's what I noticed. So now let's just do this top here. And this is pretty much almost dry because the paper has absorbed. All right, let's just do some black here. Okay, so now this shows like it's pure black. Let me see. All right. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with this. I could clean this up afterwards. Something like that. I know this kind of looks discombobulated a little bit, but we'll fix that in a minute. That's the beauty about gouache, is that any mistake you make, you can fix. And there's like a little door here. I'll do that after. Okay, so now let's do the rocks here. Let me show you what I got as far as rocks. Okay, so that's the formation of that. Actually, let me do the cast shadow of, see how intense that blue is? Well, let's use it the way it is. It goes all the way down to the water, just like that. There you go. Actually, let's put some of this blue here too. since it's in shadow. Right now it kind of looks like nothing, but it will look like something soon, promise. Okay, so let's work on the darks on those rocks. Adding just a little bit of red crimson, maybe a little bit of black. Tone it down, maybe a little bit more of this blue here. Let's see. Yeah, that works. There's a little bit of that here too as well, but we're going to change the color of that in a minute. And there's some of it right here as well. Okay. Let's add the gray colors. So let me see what this mixture gives me when I add white. Okay, a little bit more yellow. No, I want to use that. Actually, I didn't put out some sienna. Let me put some burnt sienna. Grade this down a little bit more. Okay, that sienna as well is kind of intense here. Oh, thank you. So let me put some of this sienna. There you go, nice wash here. Let me look at my reference photo. Maybe a little bit more white. Sure, why not? We'll use that. And see, notice how it glides really nice on the paper. Those colors are just like, and notice how I'll leave some of these spots open. There's a reason. So let me finish the rest of this. There's going to be some plants here. And right now I'm going like really dark colors. And eventually let me add a little bit of this blue and white, because since I'm going to do the distance here, I want this a little bit lighter and dulled out. So maybe a little bit more white. And that's the importance of using straight out of the tube and wet like that, because otherwise it would have been more of a watercolor effect that I would have had. And I want to use it like thick. I've seen some videos on how they use this. And then I'm going to put probably some darks. That's, like I said, this is the beauty of it, is because you can use it just like acrylics, just like oils. It's just, but there's something about it. It makes you like more free. You know, I've been wanting to play with gouache for such a long time, and I always like hesitated. I was like, I don't know. But you know what? I'm finally happy that I took the initiative to go say, invest in a cheap set and just play with it. I don't regret it. So this is going to be a little bit more bluer over here. So let's add. You see, this is old dry paint that I had, but look at that. I added water, and I could re-wet it. So that was just to show you. Let's go a little bit more bluer on this. It's too blue. Let me see, add more white. Gray down blue. Let me see. Maybe a little bit of sienna. I'm afraid to take too much of that sienna. Well, there you go. This is why I was afraid to do that. It's okay. Let's see. There you go. That works. And the reason why I'm really not scared is because of the opacity of these colors. I can like use it like watercolor, or I could just, use it nice and thick, and I can always go back and change something if I messed up, or go over it and it will just like cover it, and not a problem. That's the crazy thing about this. It's like, I wished I had used gouache sooner. Let's make those background trees. A little bit of blue, maybe a little bit of red, a little bit of black. Not something I use very often, but this black and the yellow ochre really gives you a really nice olive green here. And I could always go back and put darker darks in here as well. And here. Okay, not to get too detailed. Remember, don't get too detailed with this. And then we'll go to we're going to do a little bit more detailed work afterwards. Right now, I just want to get all the big shapes, block everything in. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. I think this is one of the lighthouses up in the main area. There you go. Put more water to this. And look at these nice effects that you get. Isn't that nice? Maybe a little bit more blue. And maybe just a hint of, oh, that was too much. There you go. And notice how I'm still using the same pile of colors here. And look at the effects of that. Of the pad, of the surface coming through. I just think it's so cool. Just gives it that nice, you could use these as like water reflections, all these little sparkles in the water. If you use it right, you can do and give that kind of effect. Actually, I might even leave that. What the hell, All right, let me see if I can answer some questions. Yeah, they make acrylic gouache. The acrylic gouache is water soluble. What they mean is that you use water to clean it up, and you could use water as a medium to push the paint around. What I think you're confusing about this is the fact that acrylic gouache, once I lay down these colors with acrylic gouache, now I'm specifying, you will not be able to lift these colors once the colors dry. To whereas this, watch. Let me put some water. This is regular gouache. I can lift some of this color, watch. You see? I can lift some of this color, use it here. You see that? Now, if this was acrylic gouache, you would not be able to do that. That's the difference. And the similarities between the two is that they're both opaque. So think of watercolor. Watercolor can be lifted once you add water back into it. You could reactivate it. And it's opaque. That's gouache. Acrylic gouache, it's acrylic, just opaque. And once you lay it down, permanent. Nothing you can do. It's done. And it's very, very matte coloring. Okay, the colors are very, very matte. Oh, and the other thing I noticed, when you add with regular gouache, when you put dark colors down, dark colors will lighten just a smidge. Lighter colors will darken just a smidge. Unlike when you use acrylic, everything darkens a smidge, depending on the brand that you buy or, the quality of paints that you buy. So anywho, let's go back to this. Actually, I'm going to use a bigger brush on this part. Okay. There you go. Yes, Mark, to answer your question, it can be, no, the acrylic gouache cannot be reset once drying. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Once it's down, it's down. It's done. If that's what you're referring to. But if using just gouache, I could re-wet the color and let it dry, and it will dry. And if you want to frame the painting, you have to use like a glass frame or you have to, from what I understood, use like cold wax to rub on it, okay, to protect it from humidity and water. That's the reason behind it. So, all right, let's do the clouds up here. I hope that was making sense here. Let's find a new palette here. So let me use, maybe just a little bit of sienna to this blue. I want to tone down this color. So let's see. Now watch what I do here. I'm going to add water to my brush. Watch. I'm not going to pick up any paint. There you go. So if you want to lighten a color and not use it too opaquely, you could just add water to your brush, just like I'm doing right now, you see? And you could have a varying effects. And if you want to use thicker, I just go back into my paint. Just basically like that. So I can cut into this if I want to. You see how opaque it is? I can just cut right into that top tower there and just fix it. I could do the same thing here. Actually went further like this. Okay. Maybe add a little bit of ochre. More white. A little bit of water. So this is a very loose, as you can see, painting of this. Just so I can show you an example of what you can do, like if you're out in the field and you want to paint in gouache. If you want to, the thing about it, what I like about this is going to be my go-to in the field if I ever want to paint out in plein air, because I could re-wet as much as I want and I could capture the scene really fast, okay, and not be worried, because I have this reason that I can go so opaque with the colors that I'm not too worried. I can fix things at will, and it dries pretty fast. And you could re-wet. If this dries too fast, just re-wet it. So let me go with a little bit of yellow ochre at the base here. Let's go white, maybe a little tiny hint of yellow ochre. Warm this up a little bit, maybe a tiny bit of, oh, that was too much. I didn't want to do that. Yellow ochre, more white. Okay. Put a little bit of water to this. There you go, warm up the horizon. So basically, if you were on the field, these would be like color notes. Okay, so you'd have like, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember the sky was a little bit, you know, warmer at the horizon, blah, 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 and what have you. Okay, so now we pretty much covered our canvas. Already it's starting to look like something. So if I was out in the field, I pretty much would understand here what I'm looking at. Okay, or at least maybe the time of day. So now let's put on a little bit more like the highlights or the midtones. And for that, I'm going to use my big fatty. This one. This is number 11. round. It comes to a nice, really nice point. So let me fix some of this black here. Let me go back into my black and watch what I'm going to do. So see how you can re-wet this. No, I'm not even re-wetting. I'm actually going with thicker paint. So your next layers you want to be thicker. Okay. You don't want to use too much water with your subsequent layers. Okay. And eventually I'm gonna, even though it's black on the paper, I'm gonna use a little bit of blue eventually to show a cool side of that color. So this is a little bit gray up here. So let's bluish gray. Let's just do a little bit of bluish gray. Add white. There you go. One side of it was, let me actually, whiter than that. Okay, let me try to then it's a little bit darker as we go around the bin. So apparently the sun's coming from this angle, as you can see from the shadow. So the next part right here is going to be a little bit darker. And right behind that, a little bit more black. There you go. Let me add some blue. Let me see, maybe just a little bit of white, like a darker blue, maybe a little bit of black to that. Give it a bit of a cool color. Because you don't want to keep, you want to give things color, you know, cools and darks. Maybe a little bit yellow ochre. Just do the inside. And I'm using thick here, thick paint. Do the inside of this. There you go. And I could always cut in. See, it's starting to look like something, huh? All right, let me work on these trees back here. Put some darker colors. See, now this was a mid-tone color. So watch, I'm just adding some darks here. Go back to the blue, maybe add a little bit of yellow. Use the side of my brush. There you go, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre and white. There you go. All right, I'm looking to see if there's any questions. Do I buy most of my paints at Michael's? Not all of it. I buy some of them, whatever I need. I mean, because I paint a lot with golden acrylics. I do like gambling. Michael has both, so it's kind of convenient sometimes. But sometimes also when I paint oils, I like to use the Lucas 1862 brand, and that's a Jerry's Autorama. So I'll order that online if, you know, because the store that was close to me, unfortunately closed. So now I have to buy online. Let me see. Let's work on this. So to answer your question, yeah, sometimes I have to buy at Michael's and sometimes I just buy some things online, depending on the situation. Thank you very much for the compliment. Okay, so now let's see. Let's start working on some mid-tone or highlights. So what I did, mixed a little bit of yellow ochre, a hint of blue. It kind of gave it this greenish color, which, you know, actually I'm going to make it a little bit warmer. Let me just add a little bit of red crimson to this, dull down this green. Make it this brown color. Use a lot of white. There you go. So there you go. You see how you can just and you could choose what you want to color in. And we're going to put some more color notes and details afterwards. Let me work a little bit more in this shadow area that I have. There you go. All right, let's intensify some of these darks that I have down here. Use a little bit of red. So this had time to dry, you see. So now just go back over it. Not too, you don't want to wet your brush too much, otherwise you're going to start lifting the base colors. So actually, if I want to go higher, and here, look at the colors, how you're able to mix them together if you need them. If you want to wet some colors and mix them together, you can do that. That's the beauty of this. This was more on a bluish side of things. Some of the shadow. Let me use a little bit more black and maybe a little bit of sienna. And this was darker back here. Now that patch looks a little bit rough, so I'm wetting my brush. I'm just going to go right over it, smooth it out. Let's give it a little bit of shadow. It didn't have a shadow, but I'm going to give it one. Let me mix some of this paint together. There you go. Just like that. Probably do the same thing for this one. I'm telling you, this is the beauty about gouache. It's ridiculous. You could just push and pull colors at will. Let's do the shoreline here. I'm just cutting in. We're going to put some light through there too. So if you're a watercolor painter, this will come like so freaking natural to you. There you go. Let's give some more indication of rock formation. There you go, gives this some visual texture. Okay, we're going to leave that, we said. Let me give some color to this yellow ochre here. A little bit of blue. Oh, you know what? I have a little bit of green here. Wow, that was gray. There you go. Get some highlights of some of these bushes here. There you go. All right, I have this little door. So I just put water on my brush and just reactivate this paint here. So let me give you a quick reference of what we're looking at again. Okay. So let me put this little door here. Oh, I guess that was not gray enough. Okay, still not enough. There you go. Indication of that door. Just like that. Well, on the photo, the door's a little bit higher, but it's okay. Well, I guess I can fix that. What happens is when you get your brush gets too watered down with water, it's hard to add darker darks. So if you want dark colors, you got to let this dry and clean your brush off from any water, and then just go ahead and add darker darks if you want in there. So what else? Oh yeah, the guardrail. You know what? Let me put a sailboat in the back here somewhere. I didn't show up too well, but it's okay. Let me fix that. There you go. You don't see that sailboat too well, but let me see. Maybe if I could add some darks next to it. There you go. We'll just put it like that. All right, let's put the guardrails. A little bit more black, a little bit of blue. And what's nice about these brushes, they come to a nice sharp point. So let's put like this. Okay. Like that. Something like that. Put that little ball on top here. It's casting a shadow as well. And a little top. Whoop. That was off kilter a little bit. I have the camera right in front of me, so it's kind of hard. Put some lights. Maybe a little bit of yellow. Put some indication of bricks. Just like that. So, and let maybe put some of this. So I told you I will leave this to make it look like sun glistening over the water. I'm also going to add a little bit of wave action. There you go, just like that. And what do you think? Should I add people? Let's add a couple people back there somewhere. They were on the picture anyway, so let's just put like there you go. All right, you want to throw in a bird? Let's throw in a bird. Take a thin brush. I think I went a little bit overboard with this. There you go. Yeah, that's fine. All right. What do you think? You think it was good? Huh? I mean, you saw how fast this was done, right? So the main thing, just to remember, if your paint are dragging, don't add too much water. Just add a little bit of water and your paint will flow easily, okay? And you could use, some people, like I said, start from really dark colors, go to light, or sometimes they go from a light wash and then they put more thick and opaque colors on top. It all depends on your painting style, okay? As you can see, I went a little bit both ways. I didn't go, too thick right away. I did some washes, just like right here. A lot of this was just washes that I went on top of the blue, all right? Because I wanted to mix a little bit and blend to give that effect. I didn't go too dark right away on the black here, and I didn't keep it all the way black. You saw that I added a little bit of blue just to give it some, coolness to that black, because nothing is always, plain black. Look at anything black out in nature, and you'll see it will have a reflection of some kind that's really like, there's going to be some kind of grays and cool reflections to it. So, and you can see here, I went on thicker paint, okay, on top of this initial color that I laid down. And then I kept my brush a little bit wet so I can blend to have some of that softer effect on these rocks. Same thing here. I went with the mid-tone color. It wasn't too thick right off the bat. And then just went in there with some darker colors. That's the beauty about the gouache, is that you could go dark, light, dark and light, and then you could go, thick, thin. But the beauty is the opacity. The opacity to be able to, go over anything that you did and be able to correct a mistake that you've made effortlessly. So this, I'm telling you guys, it's a beautiful tool. Like if you ever want to go out plein air, you're just sitting there with family and you want to do something really quick, this is great. And what's nice on top of that is like now that I've used this paint, I didn't use all of it, but what I can do now is I could just close this up, not care. And when I get to my destination, I could spray it, let it for like about a minute or whatever. And these will, come back to life, and I could start painting as either a watercolor or not. And then if I want thicker paint, just put dabs of thicker paint here, fresh paint, and just go over and do thicker colors on top of what you already did. All right. So at least it's for you to take color notes while you're out in the field. Oops. Actually, there were some grasses here. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, hold on. Since we're at this. Okay, well, I'm just looking at my picture. I see that there was some grasses. Let's do this. See how I just re-wetted that or whatever? It's just like, there's like a little striation there. Let's do red. Let's do black, ochre, blue. Let me put some. I'm trying to keep my colors my brush not too. See, I'm just flicking off the colors here. Go back on this, dry brushing, just do a little bit of dry brushing. There you go. There, done. Beauty. All right, folks. I hope you really loved this demo and that you got something out of it. Let me look at your questions here. Do you go to Oh, James Gurney. Yeah, one of my favorites. I love watching his gouache videos. I did learn some things from him, I guess really it's really him that kind of pushed me into gouache. I said, well, let me try this. I've been wanting for a long time. I just wanted to do a cheap investment, and I'm glad I did. It's really life-changing for me. Well, not life-changing, but it changes the way I paint, the way I see colors, and I'm not afraid to use colors and to experiment, because these paints were cheap. Okay, but they work really nice. They do the job. I could only imagine the higher the higher grade paints like the Turners and Winsor Newton, what I'll be able to achieve with that. But this was with cheap paint. This is what we're able to do, take some color notes, okay? It's nice for a sketchbook. Oh, thank you. I'll probably eventually get a sketchbook. I'm going to show you the book itself. Just going back over your questions. Okay. So you can watch this video as much as you want. It's going to be left up here. See, it's already dry to touch. I can already touch it. This is what I bought. I bought this at Walmart. You can find them online as well. But I was like, for what it would cost, it was so cheap. I was like, let me try this. And you can see 140 pound, 300 GSMs. Okay. So let me show you a few others that I've done. Some of you have seen the others that I've done with this, but let me show you. So the first one I've ever done was this one. immediately when I started playing with the paint, I just fell in love with it. Okay. Second one was this one, which I turned into a bigger painting. Let me put the, so you can see it. That one turned out into a bigger painting. I gotta find out where, oh, here it is. I'll show it to you. And then this one. And I did a painting of this one as well. Here's the larger painting of that gouache. Just like I said, you could start out with gouache, do like a sketch. Let me, there you go. This is 11 by 14. And this is what I use as a reference. Yeah, take them camping. Yeah, and plus it's easy to carry. So here's the other painting. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I guess we'll probably do a little bit more gouache from time to time if you guys are okay with that, you know, as opposed to just the acrylics. We could do, you know, from some field sketch from time to time, since, you know, I'll have my phone with me. I'll be carrying them with me when we go out places. And thank you, Barbara. And then we could paint together, okay? I'll show you what I'm looking at, and I'll just, we'll do it together. Thank you again, guys. I hope you guys have a great night. Don't work too hard tomorrow morning, and we'll see you on the next painting. All right? Thank you very much.